You enter rooms invisibly, moving through spaces without anyone noticing your arrival or caring about your presence. You speak without creating any impact, your words disappearing into the air as if never spoken, while other statements command immediate attention and generate instant response. You present ideas without actual presence, delivering content that people forget moments after you finish speaking, while others captivate audiences with far less substance, but infinitely more charisma and command. You exist in professional and social spaces without anyone really noticing you're there. Participate in meetings and conversations without influencing outcomes or decisions. Contribute thoughts and ideas without receiving recognition or acknowledgement, and attend important events without mattering to anyone present or making any lasting impression on the people you encounter. This invisibility is systematically limiting your success by preventing opportunities from reaching you, limiting your career advancement as decision-makers overlook you for promotions and high-visibility projects, restricting your influence as people dismiss your ideas without serious consideration, diminishing your power in professional and social contexts where presence determines status, and constraining your potential by keeping you trapped in roles far beneath your actual capabilities and intelligence. That is the fundamental problem. Invisible presence creates absolutely no impact on the people around you. No impact means no influence over decisions or outcomes that affect your life. No influence means no success in advancing your career or achieving your goals. And no success means remaining stuck exactly where you are regardless of your competence or effort. But commanding presence creates immediate impact the moment you enter any space, making people notice you instantly and pay attention to everything you say and do. Immediate impact creates instant influence over conversations, decisions, and group dynamics that shape outcomes in your favor. Instant influence creates rapid success as opportunities flow toward you naturally. Decision-makers remember you when important positions open, and people seek your input and value your contributions automatically. This audiobook teaches presence command mastery through the psychology of room domination, the neuroscience of attention capture, the practices of respect generation, and the systems of influence establishment that transform you from invisible to unforgettable. Stop entering rooms invisibly as if you don't matter and start commanding attention immediately the moment you arrive. Stop speaking without impact as if your words have no value and start delivering statements that people remember and quote. Stop existing without presence as if you're insignificant and start occupying space with the power and authority that creates instant respect. Powerful presence captures attention effortlessly. Instant impact generates influence automatically. Immediate respect creates opportunities continuously, and commanding energy produces success inevitably. Beginning now. Chapter 1. You are invisible. Recognize presence absence. You move through professional and social spaces without creating any lasting impression on the people around you, entering rooms without anyone noticing your arrival or caring about your presence, speaking in meetings without generating attention or interest in what you're saying, and existing within groups without influencing the dynamics or outcomes of conversations and decisions. This invisibility isn't about your physical appearance or how you look, but rather about the quality of energetic presence you bring, the intangible force that either commands attention automatically or causes you to disappear completely into background noise that nobody notices or remembers. Invisible presence manifests through specific recognizable patterns that you can observe in yourself once you know what to look for. Physical shrinking appears as taking minimal space, as if apologizing for your existence, slouching to appear smaller and less threatening to others, adopting protective body language with crossed arms and legs, nervous movements that communicate anxiety and insecurity, and constant fidgeting that broadcasts your discomfort with being noticed. Vocal weakness undermines every word you speak through quiet volume that forces others to strain to hear, upward inflection that makes your statements sound like questions seeking approval, filler words that dilute your message and signal nervousness, hesitant delivery that lacks commitment to your own ideas, and trailing off its sentence ends as if you don't believe your thoughts deserve completion. Invisible presence creates no impact. Commanding presence creates instant influence. Be seen or remain overlooked. Energetic absence drains rather than energizes the spaces you occupy, projecting nervous anxiety that others unconsciously avoid and find uncomfortable, scattered attention that prevents you from focusing or connecting meaningfully, and tentative participation that signals you don't believe you deserve to be there or that your contributions matter. Social withdrawal keeps you at the room's periphery rather than its center of action and influence, avoiding eye contact with authority figures because direct gaze feels threatening, waiting to be invited into conversations rather than participating naturally, and leaving gatherings early to avoid the discomfort of being noticed or having to engage. The cost of this invisibility is devastating and compounds over time in ways you might not fully recognize. Decision-makers don't remember you exist when important positions open, causing you to miss opportunities that go to less competent but more visible colleagues. People dismiss your contributions without serious consideration, often attributing your ideas to others who repeat them with more presence and confidence. Others treat you as fundamentally unimportant, interrupting you mid-sentence, talking over you in meetings, and excluding you from important conversations and decisions. Your career advancement stalls completely as you remain overlooked regardless of your actual competence or the quality of your work. Most insidiously, this invisibility erodes your confidence progressively, as being ignored repeatedly reinforces your unconscious beliefs about your own insignificance and unworthiness. Research on social perception reveals that people make snap judgments about your competence and status within the first few seconds of meeting you, that these lightning-fast judgments heavily influence all future interactions and assessments of your capabilities, and that physical presence and energy account for over 90% of the initial impression you create, meaning your actual words and ideas matter far less than how you occupy space and project energy. Invisible presence creates no impact. Commanding presence creates instant influence. Be seen or remain overlooked. Recognition of your current invisibility requires honest assessment without judgment or shame. Asking trusted colleagues directly how you're perceived in professional settings. Noticing objectively how people respond when you enter spaces. Observing whether your contributions generate discussion or disappear without trace. And tracking whether people remember and quote your ideas or if they vanish the moment you finish speaking. This recognition isn't about self-criticism, but about seeing your current reality clearly so you can begin the systematic work of transformation from invisible to commanding. You recognize invisibility now. Next, you must understand the psychology. Chapter 2. Understand presence psychology, the dominance hierarchy science. Presence operates through ancient evolutionary dominance hierarchy systems where humans unconsciously assess relative status and value within seconds of encountering each other, determining automatically who deserves attention and whose input matters through subconscious processing that happens faster than conscious thought can intervene. This lightning-fast assessment relies on primal survival cues that signaled competence and value in ancestral environments, where correctly identifying capable leaders and avoiding dangerous incompetence meant the difference between survival and death, creating hardwired neural circuits that still operate powerfully in modern professional and social contexts. The dominance hierarchy assessment evaluates specific signals that communicate status and capability automatically. Physical size and space occupation signal power through how much territory you claim, whether you expand into available space or shrink to minimize your presence, and whether you move with confident purposefulness or tentative apology. Vocal tone and projection communicate authority through pitch depth, volume strength, inflection patterns that either demand attention or seek approval, and pace that demonstrates thoughtful control versus anxious rushing. Movement quality reveals confidence through whether your gestures are deliberate and controlled or nervous and fidgety, whether you claim space confidently or apologize for occupying it, and whether you move with purpose and direction or wander aimlessly seeking permission. Presence signals competence automatically. Absence signals incompetence regardless of skill. Develop presence or remain underestimated. Eye contact patterns establish dominance through who looks away first during extended gaze, whether you maintain eye contact while speaking or look away nervously, and whether you hold steady gaze when challenged or break contact submissively. Energy level and emotional state broadcast status through whether you radiate calm confidence or project anxious uncertainty, whether your presence energizes spaces or drains them, and whether others feel drawn toward your energy or unconsciously avoid you. These signals get processed through ancient brain regions specialized for threat assessment and social hierarchy evaluation, operating below conscious awareness to generate instant impressions that heavily influence all subsequent interactions. The dominance hierarchy isn't about aggression or hostility, but rather about perceived competence, confidence, and value to the group, determining whose ideas receive serious consideration versus whose contributions get dismissed without thought. Research by Amy Cuddy demonstrates that presence signals include power posture with upright spine, open chest, an expansive stance that communicates confidence and capability to observers automatically. Vocal authority comes through lower pitch that conveys dominance, slower pace that demonstrates control and thoughtfulness, and downward inflection at sentence ends that signals certainty rather than seeking approval or permission from others. Deliberate movement quality separates high-status individuals who move purposefully and claim space confidently from low-status individuals who move nervously, fidget constantly, and apologize non-verbally for their existence through protective body language. Sustained eye contact demonstrates supreme confidence, especially the ability to comfortably hold gaze with high-status individuals without looking away submissively. Looking at people while speaking to communicate certainty in your message, and not breaking eye contact when challenged or disagreed with by others. The presence competence assumption operates powerfully across all contexts, where high-presence individuals are automatically assumed to be competent even when they lack actual skills or knowledge, while low-presence individuals are assumed incompetent even when they possess exceptional expertise and capability. This means competence without presence leads directly to professional invisibility, where your skills go unrecognized and unrewarded, while presence without exceptional competence still generates opportunities, promotions, and influence because people perceive high-presence individuals as more capable than they actually are. Presence signals competence automatically. Absence signals incompetence regardless of skill. Develop presence or remain underestimated. Understanding this evolutionary system isn't about gaming it manipulatively to fake competence you don't possess, but rather about ensuring your actual competence receives the attention and recognition it genuinely deserves by developing presence that accurately reflects your true value rather than underselling yourself through invisible energy that causes decision-makers to overlook your capabilities and contributions completely. The goal is alignment between your internal competence and your external presence, so the world perceives you as capable as you actually are. You understand presence psychology now. Next, you must master physical presence. Chapter 3. Master physical presence. Occupy space with authority. Physical presence forms the foundation of commanding any room because how you occupy space, hold your body, and move through environments communicate status and confidence more powerfully than anything you actually say. Most invisible people unconsciously shrink themselves physically, taking minimal space as if apologizing for their existence in the world, slouching to appear smaller, and less threatening to others around them, crossing arms and legs to create protective barriers against perceived threats, and moving tentatively as if afraid that being noticed will result in criticism or rejection. Commanding presence requires deliberate physical expansion and confident space occupation, but this doesn't mean aggressive dominance displays that create hostility or intimidate others unnecessarily. Power posture fundamentals begin with vertical spine alignment, where you stand at your full natural height without straining or forcing. Sit upright rather than slumping into chairs, and maintain this alignment even when tired, uncomfortable, or feeling insecure about your right to occupy space. Open chest and shoulders communicate confidence and receptivity by positioning shoulders back and down rather than forward and hunched, keeping chest open and exposed rather than collapsed protectively, and creating an expansive rather than protective overall posture that signals you're safe and don't need to defend yourself. Physical presence commands attention nonverbally. Physical absence communicates low status. Occupy space or disappear in a background. Grounded lower body provides the stable foundation that commanding presence requires through feet positioned shoulder width apart to create a solid base. Weight distributed evenly across both feet rather than shifted nervously from side to side, in a rooted stance that communicates you cannot be easily moved or intimidated by others. Relaxed but controlled upper body completes the package through arms uncrossed and available for natural expressive gestures, hands visible and confident rather than hidden nervously in pockets, and movements that are deliberate and purposeful rather than anxious and fidgety. Strategic space claiming means consciously positioning yourself in ways that command attention and communicate status rather than accepting whatever marginal space others leave for you. Enter rooms confidently rather than tentatively, moving immediately and purposefully toward your chosen position rather than hesitating at the threshold waiting for permission or direction. Move to center positions rather than periphery locations, claiming the spaces where action happens and decisions get made rather than accepting marginal positions at room edges. Claim armrests and table space rather than ceding territory to others, spreading your materials comfortably rather than apologizing for taking space you need, and generally behaving as if you have every right to occupy space confidently. Research by Dana Carney demonstrates that holding power poses for just 2 minutes before important interactions creates actual biochemical changes in your body, increasing testosterone, which is the dominance hormone, while simultaneously decreasing cortisol, which is the stress hormone, resulting in measurably increased confidence and improved performance. Movement quality matters as much as static posture throughout your interactions. Walking with clear purpose and direction rather than wandering aimlessly without destination. Moving deliberately at a controlled pace rather than rushing nervously. Using smooth, controlled gestures rather than jerky, anxious movements. And maintaining physical stillness when not actively moving rather than engaging in constant fidgeting that broadcasts anxiety and uncertainty. Physical presence commands attention nonverbally. Physical absence communicates low status. Occupy space or disappear in a background. You understand now that physical presence communicates status through how you hold your body and occupy space. That power posture creates biochemical changes affecting confidence. And that movement quality signals either authority or insecurity to everyone observing you. Stop shrinking yourself physically and start deliberately claiming space with confident, expansive posture, purposeful movement, and the grounded physical authority that makes people instinctively recognize you as someone whose presence matters and whose contributions deserve serious attention and consideration. You master physical presence now. Next, you must develop vocal authority. Chapter 4. Develop vocal authority. Speak with command and certainty. Vocal presence determines whether people actually listen when you speak or tune you out immediately as background noise, whether your words carry weight and generate impact or disappear without leaving any trace. And whether you're perceived as an authority whose opinions matter or dismissed as insignificant and unworthy of serious attention. Most invisible people systematically undermine their vocal authority through patterns they've developed unconsciously over years of seeking approval and avoiding conflict. Speaking too quietly and forcing others to strain to hear their contributions. Using upward inflection that makes statements sound like questions seeking permission. Inserting excessive filler words that dilute their message and signal nervousness. Delivering ideas hesitantly by starting and stopping mid-sentence. And trailing off at sentence endings as if they don't believe their thoughts deserve completion. Vocal authority develops through specific practices that transform how you use your voice to command attention and communicate certainty. Volume projection means speaking loudly enough that everyone in the space can hear you easily without straining. Filling the room with your voice confidently rather than apologizing for being audible, and ensuring your message reaches the back of any space naturally. This doesn't mean shouting or forcing your voice unnaturally, but rather supporting your speech with proper diaphragmatic breathing, projecting from your core rather than your throat, and confidently claiming auditory space, just as you claim physical space with your body and posture. Vocal authority commands attention and respect. Vocal weakness undermines competence. Speak powerfully or be dismissed. Downward inflection at sentence ends signals certainty and authority that makes people take your words seriously, with statements ending with your voice going down definitively rather than up questioningly, communicating that you're making declarations based on knowledge rather than seeking approval or permission from your listeners. This single change transforms how others perceive everything you say, turning tentative suggestions into authoritative statements that command consideration and generate respect. Pace and pausing matter critically in vocal authority, where speaking too quickly signals nervousness and lack of control, while deliberate, measured pacing communicates thoughtfulness and confidence. Strategic pauses before important points draw attention and build anticipation. Pauses after key statements allow your words to land and resonate with listeners, and comfortable silence while gathering your thoughts demonstrates you're secure enough not to fill every moment with verbal noise. Eliminating filler words requires conscious practice of pausing instead of saying, being genuinely comfortable with brief silence while organizing your thoughts, and trusting that these pauses make you appear thoughtful and deliberate rather than uncertain or unprepared. Vocal tone profoundly affects how people perceive your competence and status, with lower pitch naturally conveying authority and capability, while higher pitch suggests nervousness, youth, and uncertainty. Steady, consistent tone without excessive variation up and down communicates emotional control and confidence, while wild pitch variations signal anxiety and lack of composure. You can lower your natural pitch slightly through relaxing your throat, speaking from deeper in your chest, and breathing more deeply before speaking. Vocal authority commands attention and respect. Vocal weakness undermines competence. Speak powerfully or be dismissed. You understand now that vocal authority determines whether people listen and take your words seriously, that specific practices like downward inflection and strategic pausing create commanding vocal presence, and that eliminating weakness patterns transforms how others perceive your competence. Stop speaking tentatively with upward inflection and filler words, and start delivering your statements with a vocal authority that makes people listen, remember what you said, and take your contributions seriously in every professional and social interaction. You develop vocal authority now. Next, you must control eye contact. Chapter 5. Control eye contact. Establish dominance through gaze. Eye contact functions as perhaps the most powerful nonverbal dominance signal in human interaction, determining who controls the frame of every conversation and whose perspective dominates social dynamics in any group setting. Most invisible people systematically avoid eye contact with high-status individuals because direct gaze feels threatening and uncomfortable, Look away nervously when speaking to authority figures as if seeking permission for their words. Break eye contact immediately when someone challenges or disagrees with them. And scan the room anxiously rather than holding steady, focused attention on conversation partners. This avoidance pattern communicates low status, deep insecurity, and complete submission more powerfully and convincingly than any words you could possibly speak. Commanding presence requires mastering eye contact patterns that establish rather than concede dominance in every single interaction throughout your day. The 70% rule provides practical guidance by stating you should maintain eye contact approximately 70% of the time during conversations, because more than this creates uncomfortable intensity that feels aggressive, while less signals disengagement or insecurity that undermines your authority. Eye contact while speaking carries particular importance because most people instinctively look away when talking, but maintaining steady gaze while delivering your message communicates supreme confidence in your words and demonstrates you won't be interrupted, dismissed, or ignored by anyone regardless of their status. Eye contact establishes dominance and status. Avoidance communicates submission. Hold gaze or concede power. Breaking direction matters critically in how others perceive your status and confidence. When you need to break eye contact temporarily, look to the side rather than down, because looking down signals submission and defeat, while looking aside signals you're thinking thoughtfully while maintaining your status and composure. The power hold technique involves maintaining eye contact even when others look away first, demonstrating you're completely comfortable holding gaze longer than they are and establishing subtle but unmistakable dominance through this seemingly small behavior that most people never consciously notice, but everyone unconsciously registers. When someone challenges your ideas or disagrees with your position, holding steady eye contact rather than looking away signals that their disagreement doesn't threaten you or shake your confidence. Communicating unshakable certainty in your position and willingness to defend it without becoming defensive or insecure. The triangle technique prevents uncomfortable staring by shifting your gaze smoothly between their left eye, right eye, and mouth in a slow triangle pattern that maintains engagement while appearing completely natural rather than intense or aggressive. Group eye contact requires strategic distribution of attention across all participants to avoid excluding anyone, but you should return frequently to decision-makers and high-status individuals in the room, demonstrating you recognize hierarchy and understand whose opinions carry the most weight while still including everyone respectfully. Research by Michael Argyle reveals that eye contact patterns differ systematically by status level, with high-status individuals characteristically looking at others while they're speaking and looking away while listening, while low-status individuals do the exact opposite by looking away while speaking and looking at others while listening. Deliberately adopting the high-status pattern changes how others unconsciously perceive and automatically respond to you. Eye contact establishes dominance and status. Avoidance communicates submission. Hold gaze or concede power. You understand now that eye contact is the most powerful nonverbal dominance signal, that specific patterns like the 70% rule and power hold establish your status, and that breaking direction and maintaining gaze when challenged communicate unshakable confidence. Stop avoiding eye contact with authority figures and breaking gaze when challenged, and start deliberately holding steady eye contact that establishes your status, demonstrates your confidence, and commands the respect that your actual competence and contributions genuinely deserve in every interaction. You control eye contact now. Next, you must project confident energy. Chapter 6. Project confident energy. Radiate power through presence. Energy functions as the invisible force that either attracts people toward you naturally or repels them unconsciously before you even speak a single word, determining whether others want to engage with your presence or instinctively avoid you without understanding why. Most invisible people project low draining energy that exhausts others, nervous anxiety that makes people unconsciously uncomfortable in their presence, scattered, unfocused attention that prevents meaningful connection and engagement, or tentative uncertainty that signals they don't deserve to participate or that their contributions lack value. Commanding presence requires projecting high positive, focused energy that draws people toward you magnetically and makes them want to hear what you have to say. Calm confidence energy proves most magnetic because it occupies the powerful middle ground. Neither aggressive nor submissive, neither anxious nor apathetic, but centered and grounded with quiet assurance that communicates complete comfort in your own skin and total security in your right to occupy space. This energy cannot be faked through external performance because people unconsciously detect inauthenticity and reject it immediately, requiring genuine internal confidence rather than manufactured displays that feel hollow and actually backfire by making you appear even less secure. Confident energy attracts and influences naturally. Anxious energy repels and undermines automatically. Project power or drain rooms. Grounding practices create the centered energy that commanding presence requires by connecting consciously to your physical body through focused breath awareness, feeling your feet firmly planted on solid ground beneath you, centering your energy in your core rather than scattered anxiously in your head, and systematically releasing unnecessary tension that creates scattered, anxious energy that others find repelling. Pre-interaction energy management means deliberately setting your internal state before important encounters rather than leaving it to chance, practicing power poses for 2 minutes to shift your biochemistry, using controlled breathing techniques to regulate your nervous system and reduce anxiety, visualizing yourself performing confidently and successfully in the upcoming interaction, and engaging in physical movement to actively shift your energy from anxious to powerful before you enter. High-stakes situations. Energy management during interactions maintains your powerful state through staying genuinely present in the current moment rather than thinking ahead anxiously or reviewing past mistakes. Breathing deeply and steadily from your diaphragm rather than holding your breath or breathing shallowly from your chest. Maintaining physical groundedness through connection to your body rather than fidgeting nervously. And projecting warmth alongside power rather than cold, intimidating presence that creates distance and discomfort. The energy you consistently project is highly contagious because research by Elaine Hatfield on emotional contagion demonstrates that people unconsciously mirror and match the emotional state of those around them without any conscious awareness or deliberate choice. This means your energy doesn't just affect how people perceive and judge you, but actually changes their emotional state in real time, making your calm, confident energy create calm, confident responses from others, while your anxious, scattered energy generates anxious, uncomfortable responses that make people want to end the interaction and get away from you. Confident energy attracts and influences naturally. Anxious energy repels and undermines automatically. Project power or drain rooms. You understand now that energy is an invisible but powerful force determining whether people are drawn to or repelled by your presence. That calm confidence proves most magnetic, and that your energy is contagious and directly affects others' emotional states. Stop projecting anxious, scattered energy that drains and repels people, and start deliberately cultivating and projecting the calm, confident, centered energy that attracts people naturally, makes them want to engage with you, and creates the positive responses that commanding presence generates automatically in every interaction. You project confident energy now. Next, you must master strategic positioning. Chapter 7. Master strategic positioning. Claim high-status physical space. Where you position yourself in physical space communicates status as powerfully as how you hold your body, with high-status individuals instinctively claiming positions that maximize visibility and command attention, while low-status people unconsciously retreat to peripheral positions that render them invisible and irrelevant. Most invisible people position themselves poorly by standing at room edges rather than moving confidently to center positions, sitting in back corners rather than claiming prominent locations with good sight lines, and allowing themselves to be physically marginalized by more assertive people who claim better strategic positions without hesitation or apology. Strategic positioning requires consciously claiming high-status physical locations that maximize your visibility and influence rather than accepting whatever marginal space remains after others have claimed prime territory. Room entry matters significantly because how you enter and where you move immediately afterward communicates status instantly to everyone present. Entering confidently and moving deliberately to your chosen strategic position signals high status, while tentatively entering and accepting whatever space remains unclaimed signals low status and communicates you don't believe you deserve better placement. Strategic positioning creates visibility and influence. Peripheral placement ensures invisibility. Claim center or remain unnoticed. High-status seating positions include the traditional head of table, which historically signals authority and naturally commands attention from everyone present. Center positions along the long side of tables, which control conversation flow while maintaining visual contact with all participants. Standing positions while others sit, which creates immediate height advantage and visual dominance. And any positions in close proximity to decision makers, because proximity to power automatically associates you with power in observers' unconscious assessments. Meeting positioning requires arriving early enough to consciously choose strategic seating rather than accepting whatever leftover positions remain after others have claimed prime locations. Selecting positions with excellent sight lines to all participants so you can monitor reactions and control engagement. Avoiding positions with your back to doors or walls that create subconscious vulnerability and defensive energy, and actively resisting being pushed or maneuvered into peripheral positions by more assertive participants who understand positioning dynamics. Presentation positioning means owning center stage rather than hiding nervously to the side or behind podiums. Moving purposefully through the entire front space rather than remaining stationary in one spot. Claiming the entire available area rather than shrinking to minimal space, and using deliberate movement to command attention and emphasize important points throughout your presentation. Social positioning at networking events involves moving confidently to conversation centers where important discussions happen rather than standing against walls like wallflower. Positioning yourself strategically in main traffic flows where people must acknowledge your presence as they move through the space. Creating conversation clusters around yourself rather than joining existing groups peripherally as supplicant, and claiming central rather than peripheral physical space throughout the entire event. Strategic positioning creates visibility and influence. Peripheral placement ensures invisibility. Claim center or remain unnoticed. You understand now that physical positioning communicates status as powerfully as body language. That high-status positions maximize visibility and influence, while peripheral positions ensure invisibility, and that strategic positioning requires conscious choice rather than accepting whatever space remains. Stop accepting peripheral positions that render you invisible and start deliberately claiming high-status strategic positions that maximize your visibility. Ensure people notice your presence, and create the influence that commanding presence generates through occupying space where decisions happen and where your contributions cannot be ignored or dismissed. You master strategic positioning now. Next, you must deliver powerful statements. Chapter 8. Deliver powerful statements. Speak to impact, not fill silence. How you deliver verbal content matters exponentially more than what you actually say. With powerful delivery, making average content memorable and influential, while weak delivery makes even brilliant insights instantly forgettable and completely ineffective. Most invisible people systematically undermine their statements through excessive talking that dilutes impact by burying key points in unnecessary verbiage. Tentative language that undermines authority by qualifying every statement with hedging words. Permission seeking that communicates deep insecurity by asking if their ideas are acceptable. And failure to land points with conviction by immediately walking back statements or apologizing for having opinions. Powerful statement delivery requires mastering specific techniques that make your words command attention and generate lasting impact. The statement not question principle means eliminating upward inflection that makes your statement sound like questions seeking approval from listeners, ending all sentences with your voice going down decisively to signal certainty, and communicating that you're making declarations based on knowledge rather than seeking permission or validation from others. Definitive language replaces tentative, hedging words throughout your speech. Instead of saying, "I think maybe we could potentially consider doing this," say directly, "We should do this." Replace "I'm not sure, but I believe" with "here's what we know." Eliminate "does that make sense?" and "is that okay?" completely, because these permission-seeking phrases undermine the authority of everything you just said. Powerful delivery creates memorable impact. Tentative delivery ensures instant forgetting. Speak with authority or be ignored. Strategic silence amplifies impact dramatically through pausing for 2 to 3 seconds before delivering important statements to draw attention and build anticipation. Pausing after key points to let them land and resonate deeply with listeners rather than rushing immediately to the next thought, and being genuinely comfortable with silence rather than nervously filling every pause with meaningless words that dilute your message. The power of 3 structures memorable statements that stick in people's minds by presenting 3 supporting points rather than overwhelming with excessive detail. Using 3 concrete examples to illustrate abstract concepts, or repeating key concepts 3 times in slightly different ways, because this number creates psychological completeness and aids memory retention. Claim ownership with confident I statements rather than deflecting credit with "we" when presenting your ideas, saying "I believe" rather than "some people think" to demonstrate conviction, and confidently attributing your ideas to yourself rather than presenting them as group consensus that dilutes your contribution. Landing the point means staying committed to your statement rather than immediately walking it back with qualifications, maintaining steady eye contact after speaking rather than looking away nervously, and allowing deliberate silence after important statements rather than filling it with unnecessary clarifications that undermine what you just said. Research by Albert Morabian demonstrates that only 7% of communication impact comes from the actual words themselves, while 38% comes from vocal delivery and 55% from body language, meaning how you say something matters approximately 13 times more than what you actually say. Powerful delivery creates memorable impact. Tentative delivery ensures instant forgetting. Speak with authority or be ignored. You understand now that delivery matters more than content in determining impact, that specific techniques like definitive language and strategic silence create powerful statements, and that landing points without walking them back demonstrates the confidence that makes people remember and respect your contributions. Stop undermining your statements with tentative language and permission-seeking, and start delivering your ideas with the powerful conviction that makes people listen, remember what you said, and take your contributions seriously in every conversation and meeting. You deliver powerful statements now. Next, you must practice daily. Chapter 9. Practice presence daily. Build commanding impact through training. Commanding presence develops through consistent daily practice of specific exercises that systematically build physical authority, vocal power, confident energy, and strategic positioning skills rather than appearing magically through sudden insight or one-time transformation. 5 daily practices transform invisible presence into commanding impact progressively and permanently over weeks and months of dedicated, consistent effort. Morning power preparation involves holding a power pose for exactly 2 minutes before important days to create measurable biochemical changes that increase confidence hormones while simultaneously decreasing stress hormones. Visualizing yourself commanding performance successfully in upcoming interactions to prime your nervous system, and setting conscious intention to occupy space with authority rather than apologizing for your existence throughout the entire day. Physical presence practice throughout your day means consciously correcting your posture every single hour by setting reminders if necessary, deliberately claiming space rather than shrinking yourself unconsciously, maintaining open rather than closed protective body language in all situations, and moving with clear purpose and deliberation rather than nervous, hurried energy that broadcasts anxiety. Vocal authority development requires speaking slightly louder than feels natural or comfortable to you, ending every statement with downward inflection to signal certainty, consciously eliminating filler words by pausing instead when you feel the urge to say or and recording yourself regularly to identify and systematically correct vocal weakness patterns you can't hear while speaking. Commanding presence requires daily practice. Occasional effort creates no lasting change. Practice systematically or remain invisible. Eye contact discipline involves maintaining approximately 70% eye contact in absolutely all conversations without exception. Holding gaze while speaking, especially to communicate confidence in your words, breaking to the side rather than down when you need to look away temporarily, and practicing comfortable extended eye contact with your reflection before important interactions to build your capacity and comfort with sustained gaze. Evening presence reflection reviews your day's presence moments objectively and without harsh self-judgment by noting specifically when you claimed space confidently versus when you shrunk yourself, when you spoke with clear authority versus when you spoke tentatively, when you held eye contact steadily versus when you looked away submissively, and when you projected calm confidence versus nervous anxiety. Tracking your progress objectively over time and identifying specific patterns requiring focused attention and deliberate practice. The presence-building progression follows predictable stages that everyone experiences during this transformation process. The first week focuses primarily on recognition of your current patterns, becoming consciously aware of how you actually behave rather than how you imagine you behave. Weeks 2 through 4 involve conscious practice of new behaviors that feel forced, awkward, and unnatural initially because you're overriding decades of ingrained patterns. Months 2 through 3 develop increasing consistency as new commanding patterns become progressively more natural and require less conscious effort to maintain. Months 4 through 6 achieve full integration where commanding presence operates automatically without any conscious effort or deliberate performance required. Commanding presence requires daily practice. Occasional effort creates no lasting change. Practice systematically or remain invisible. You understand now that commanding presence develops through systematic daily practice of 5 specific exercises. That progression follows predictable stages from recognition through integration, and that consistency matters more than intensity in building lasting presence. Stop practicing occasionally when motivated and start committing to daily practice regardless of how you feel, building the commanding presence that creates instant impact, generates automatic influence, and produces the recognition and opportunities your actual competence genuinely deserves through permanent transformation from invisible to unforgettable. You practice presence daily now. Finally, you must understand permanence. Chapter 10. Commanding presence is permanent practice. Impact requires daily maintenance. Commanding presence is not a permanent achievement you reach and maintain effortlessly forever, but rather an ongoing practice requiring daily maintenance and consistent attention throughout your entire professional and social life. Temporary practice creates only temporary impact that disappears rapidly when you stop consciously developing your presence. While permanent practice creates permanent commanding impact that remains stable and powerful because you continue the daily work of maintaining your physical authority, vocal command, confident energy, and strategic positioning in every interaction and encounter. Without consistent daily practice, old patterns of physical shrinking, tentative speaking, eye contact avoidance, and anxious energy projection inevitably return as neural pathways for invisible behavior strengthen again through default use, while your commanding presence pathways weaken progressively through neglect and disuse. The boundary violations you once refused to tolerate gradually become acceptable again as your standards erode without conscious maintenance. Self-criticism that you work hard to silence starts speaking louder as compassionate self-talk fades without reinforcement, and the invisible patterns you struggled to overcome reassert themselves when you stop actively challenging them through daily practice and conscious attention. Temporary practice creates temporary presence. Permanent practice creates permanent impact. Practice daily or return to invisibility. Neural patterns follow the fundamental principle of use it or lose it throughout your entire life. Commanding presence pathways that you've worked hard to build will weaken steadily and eventually disappear completely without regular reinforcement through consistent use. Physical authority patterns that create instant respect will deteriorate progressively without daily activation and practice. And confident energy projection that attracts people naturally will vanish entirely without ongoing maintenance through deliberate daily attention and effort. Daily non-negotiables maintain commanding presence permanently through practices you commit to performing every single day, regardless of circumstances, feelings, motivation levels, or life challenges that tempt you to skip practice. Morning power preparation sets your physical and psychological state before the day's demands begin. Conscious posture correction and strategic space claiming throughout all daily activities. Vocal authority in absolutely every conversation and meeting without exception. Strategic eye contact with everyone you encounter regardless of their status. An evening reflection that honestly tracks your progress and identifies specific areas requiring focused attention and improvement. After months of consistent daily practice without skipping or making excuses, profound transformation occurs as you shift from trying consciously to command presence to naturally commanding attention without thinking about it, from consciously projecting confidence to authentically embodying power as your default state, from deliberately claiming space to instinctively occupying territory with natural authority, and from forcing vocal projection to naturally speaking with a command that makes. People automatically listen and respect your contributions. Integration progresses through predictable stages that everyone experiences during this permanent transformation. Conscious incompetence means you're painfully aware of your invisible patterns, but can't yet consistently change them despite understanding what you should do differently. Conscious competence means you can command presence effectively, but only through deliberate effort, focused attention, and conscious management of your body, voice, energy, and positioning. Unconscious competence means commanding presence operates automatically as your natural default state without requiring any conscious management, deliberate performance, or focused attention because it has become who you are fundamentally. Temporary practice creates temporary presence. Permanent practice creates permanent impact. Practice daily or return to invisibility. You understand now that commanding presence requires permanent daily practice to maintain the physical authority, vocal command, confident energy, and strategic positioning you've worked hard to develop. Stop thinking you can develop presence temporarily, then stop practicing, and start committing to daily practice as permanent lifestyle, understanding that commanding presence requires ongoing maintenance through consistent daily attention to the 5 practices that build and preserve your transformation from invisible to unforgettable, from overlooked to respected, from dismissed to influential, and from struggling for recognition to naturally commanding the attention, respect, and opportunities your actual competence and contributions genuinely deserve in every professional and social interaction throughout your entire life. You have learned 10 principles for commanding presence. Stop entering rooms invisibly and start commanding attention the moment you arrive. Stop speaking tentatively and start delivering statements with unshakable authority. Stop shrinking physically and start occupying space with confident, expansive presence. Commanding presence creates instant impact. Instant impact generates automatic influence. Automatic influence produces inevitable success. And inevitable success flows naturally from the powerful presence you develop and maintain through permanent daily practice, starting immediately and continuing forever.